Nice one, Cyril. Welcome to Nice One Cyril Extra Time. I'm here, as usual, with Kevin Acott. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, Simon.
Christmas, it's, we've just been talking before the show about the horrors to come for Kev today. Only because it's going to be hectic, and yesterday was hectic. Are you girding your loins to get through another day of heavy eating and lots of noise?
Yes, my loins are being girded as we speak, actually, and it's like I was saying before we kicked off. I grew up in a quiet, sort of slightly resentful, because my dad was a child athletic fan family, and so Christmas was nice, but quiet, and my current Christmas is not. It's nice, but not quiet.
I thought we'd have a little chat initially about silly season, because here we are. It's the 26th of December, so from the 1st of January we have a new window opening, transfer window, and I never cease to be appalled and amazed by the crap that appears online. It usually starts with Fabrizio Romano, right? He says this is happening. But you also have, Paul O'Keefe, you also have all kinds of supposedly in the know, oracles, peddling bullshit. I mean, how do you navigate your way through all this crap?
Well, I mean, every time, just before a window, either the January or the summer one, every single time I resolve to just come off Twitter and take no notice of it until the final day, and of course I never stick to it. So and then I try and control it. It's a bit like an addiction. I sort of say, right, I'm giving up, and then I try. Well, I can do this. I can just look every now and again, and then eventually you just become quite obsessed, and even knowing that 99.9% of it is just rubbish. It's about hope, isn't it? It's about optimism. Maybe this time, maybe this will be the good window. Maybe these people do know what they're talking about. Maybe the club's deliberately leaking exciting information. I don't know. It's not a great period, and I'm definitely looking forward to. Is it? I don't even know when it is. Is it actually the 31st, the end of the window this time? But
I think so. I wouldn't swear to it. I mean, I totally agree with that. We've got Romano is the ultimate, kind of. He'll tell you the news as soon as it's confirmed by the club, right? So it's as though he's broken the news, but frankly, he's just telling you what's already. Perhaps he's got his ear to the ground, but he doesn't know much. And O'Keefe, I know a lot of people rely on him. They think he's somehow inveigled himself into the hierarchy of the club, and therefore here's all these whispers. Yeah. It's interesting that I think, of course, they get the odd one right, but they get many, many more wrong. And I don't know who it was saying, Morgan Gibbs White, that's done. Ez is done, and then they're not done, and then either those people go back into the holes from which they crawled out of, or they say, I did say in my tweet of, Tuesday 4 years ago that there's a chance it wouldn't happen. But it is, you're right, there is that, you look at something and you think, oh, hello, we're in for this bloke. I haven't even had to Google him. And it turns out to be bullshit. I'll tell you the other thing that has been troubling me over Christmas, because I've had a quiet Christmas. Something that's been going on around my head is this idea of the big club, right? We're a big club. You're not. Look, I won't say where I stand just yet. What's your view on this whole concept?
I don't know, because I don't know who is contained within that category and who isn't really. The obvious. Immediately, I'm going along with it, aren't I? So it's because the obvious to me is that Liverpool are a big club, Man United are a big club. I'm not sure about Chelsea or Man City, because I think they're sort of nouveau big clubs, and it doesn't count because they don't have the history. I don't know. Are we in the same sort of group in terms of bigness as any of those clubs? You'll notice I'm not mentioning the other lot down the road. No, we're not. We're not as big as Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Man United right now, we're not. We're way off that. And if you count...
And that's because of achievement, isn't it? I mean, we just haven't got the weight of trophies to say that we can compete with clubs who, even Chelsea, who are very arrivist, after... what's his name? I've forgotten his bloody name. Roman Abramovich came in.
Yeah.
And up to then, they were as shit as us, right? And then suddenly they won everything, and they automatically, by virtue of achievement, become a big club. But they've got a pissy little ground, and there's no great history about them.
No.
So it's an odd kind of classification, isn't it?
Yeah, I think people accuse us Spurs fans, I think, of feeling that we support a big club, and there's a sort of entitlement to trophies that goes with that. And there's some truth in that. I think maybe we somewhere see ourselves as a big club. Maybe particularly people of our sort of generation, because I think there's no doubt I don't think there was any doubt in the 70s and 80s we were a big club, and we were competing. And we've competed the occasional season since, but I don't know. Do you measure it by football achievement? Do you measure it by history? Do you measure it by the number of fans worldwide? And I assume Man United are still top of that. There's something about them and their history, I think, that makes them probably the biggest club, despite their recent failure, their post-Ferguson failures.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always mentioned in that conversation about the top six. And I always think to myself, well, I mean, most recently, what have we done to merit that? We've got a big ground. We've got a fantastic ground.
Yeah.
We have pretensions. We kind of feel that we ought to be in amongst that kind of company. But actually, this is a club that went 17 years without winning anything. It doesn't have that many league championships. It's got a few FA Cups. It's not like we've ever been dominant over any kind of long period, and certainly not recently. I don't look quite. We're a mediocre team masquerading as a big club. I think that's kind of how I see it at the moment.
Yeah. I don't think that was always necessarily the case, though. I think I think the way in which the club has been managed over the last 20 odd years has contributed to us slipping from whatever that big clubness is. There hasn't been a lot of that's about there hasn't been the investment, and however much you criticise Enoch and Levy, they haven't had the money that the Cities and Chelseas have had. They couldn't have invested in the same way. So I don't know. I think I'd like us to prove we're a big club on the pitch, really.
Well, we can dream. We can dream. One other little topic I wanted to cover with you was this one. Certainly in recent times, whenever we bought a player, the first thing all of us have done is to go onto YouTube. Oh, first Google, who the hell is he? And then you go to YouTube and find a compilation that will somehow point up this player as being an absolute genius. But generally speaking, it's my experience of Spurs fans is that they make up their minds about the new signing within about 20 minutes of their debut. Has there been a point of, let's talk about sort of more recent signings where you've thought, I've got this guy, I know exactly what he's about, and he's going to achieve X or Y?
In Xavi, actually, I think for me, having just seen videos of him and read about him, and I think we were talking about this in the last podcast, that he seemed like he was going to be something very, very special, and he still might. So it's not so much making my mind up about, it's about not changing my mind, if that makes sense. I'd already decided he was going to be great, and despite the sort of lack of evidence of that really so far, I've ignored that. I've ignored the evidence because I still believe he's going to be great. Maddison, similarly, actually, I thought he was going to. I don't think he's proved himself completely. I mean, ignoring obviously the injuries, I don't think he's still proved himself. And I was a little sceptical about him at first. So he's sort of proved himself. Proved my prejudgment.
Like Maddison. Yeah, I mean, someone like Maddison, who's a kind of a standout performer at, going back into the big club thing here, but at a lesser club, with lesser clubs. And coming into Spurs, we kind of expected a lot of him, and he has delivered at times.
He has at
times.
See
that he's incredibly, he's gifted footballer, but a lack of consistency. I tell you who, I mean, I think the classic of most recent times was Kulusevski, who after literally 20 minutes of his debut was being pilloried by the cognoscenti, who decided he couldn't run, couldn't control the ball, couldn't do anything. And I remember at the time tweeting, it's 20 minutes, for fuck's sake, give him a chance. And within a very short space of time, of course, he proved himself as a player of immense capability. But as it turns out, those early criticisms of his lack of speed turned out to be, I mean, it's his Achilles heel, certainly as a winger, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think that the jury's still out, to use the cliche on him, for me, on him and Maddison, for similar reasons. That sort of occasional expression of something very, very special, but not consistent. And how they'll both cope with coming back after so long out, obviously is worrying, really. Who knows?
Yeah. And the other one, I think, of recent times, who I feel I made my mind up about, even before he joined us, was Lamela, who was, I remember watching some film of him after we just bought him, and I thought, I obviously don't know who this guy is. And he was playing in Italy, and there was some film of him scoring 2 goals. I remember watching this and thinking, there's something about both of those finishes that I find unconvincing. They weren't clean. They weren't quite where he intended. I thought, he's shit. And look, it turned out I was right, except, of course, that he is beloved by so many of our fans because of his, and I think Julie mentioned this on our last pod, it's a shithouser.
Yeah.
Now, I've got very little time for shithousers, especially if they're not particularly great footballers. I mean, Roy Keane was a shithouser, but he was great.
Yeah.
That's fine. Be a shithouser. Do what you like. But if you're that guy that, when you shithouse the opposing team and the opposing team thinks, but you can't do us any harm, really. You can annoy me, but you can't score against me.
Yeah.
Then I feel it's just all for nothing.
Yeah. I was just thinking about Graham Roberts there. I think Graham Roberts was sort of our last great example of a really good footballer who was a great shithouser as well. But yeah, we do, and I actually think the shithouser position has been neglected over the years by us. We've got ones who don't combine. We've got players who don't combine the two things, and you do need them. Can you imagine Roy Keane in our midfield now? That kind of player, or Graham Roberts. We've never.
It's interesting, isn't it, that if you look across, our team, apart from perhaps Romero, I'm not sure we have people with that kind of temperament in the team. You could argue that Richarlison's a little bit feisty, a bit of a shithouser, but I wonder whether overall, as the character of the team is too nice. Perhaps we too nice.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that insult used for Frank, a lot in the last few weeks. He's too nice. I don't know if that's true, because I don't know how he relates to players, when we're not, when there's no cameras on him. I can't believe it. I can't believe that he's, survived, and moderately succeeded in a very difficult business by just being nice. I suspect he's made difficult decisions and pissed people off. I hope. Is Pep nice? Jose in his prime nice? No. Conte, no. But then you get the Harry Redknapp thing, don't you? Where the arm round the shoulder of the right player makes a difference. And maybe you can be nice and not do that. that maybe Frank isn't able to do the arm round the shoulder. I don't know. We'll hear in a few years' time.
We may not be talking about Frank after tomorrow. Sunday. We're playing Palace away, which I always think is a tough fixture anyway, because they're a good side and they're tough at home. We talked about this again on the last pod. If we get hammered by Palace, is that curtains for Thomas Frank? We'll come back to that after the match, I think, if he's still there. Just you've had a chance to ruminate since our last pod. Have you had any different thoughts about what might happen at Selhurst Park?
I've already forgotten what I predicted, so probably whatever I say now is going to contradict whatever I said. I probably feel more negative now with no particular reason. I can't see us winning it. I can't. I thought, a big part of me thought we were going to turn things around against Liverpool, and for about 12 minutes we did, but we still lost. We might scrape a draw. I'm going to predict a draw. I'm going to be positive 2-2.
Okay, I predicted a draw as well in the previous pod. Nothing's happened since to change my mind. So I'm going to stick with that. We will find out on Sunday, and we'll reconvene. Kev, you're with us on Monday with Julie Welch.
Yeah,
I don't know who's coming. We've got a fourth guest, but I cannot think for the life of me. It's Christmas and my head's gone. But we'll be back next week. Give us a follow at Nice One Cyril Pod on Twitter, and also follow us, if you would, on the various podcast platforms. You'll never miss an episode. Thanks to Kevin.
Thank you.
And come on, you Spurs. Nice one, Cyril.